Well, blue economy has been a buzzword in the world, and in 2016, through an executive order, uh, number 1 of 2016, the President of Kenya created the State Department for Fisheries and Blue Economy. That is when this country started to formally recognize the sector. Now, what then is blue economy? Well, to many, blue economy, according to the definition of the UN, we are referring to all those ocean resources that can be utilized for the purposes of wealth creation, improved livelihoods, and of course, job creation. But the most important thing here is to ensure we still sustain a healthy ocean or healthy ecosystem. Now, the potential of the blue economy in this country is quite enormous. If we were to fully explore the blue economy space, then we will be talking of about 600 billion Kenya shillings. At the moment though, the blue economy contributes to about 2.5% of the national gross domestic product. We are talking of a total of around 178 billion Kenya shillings, which is way below the economic potential of the whole sector. In other words, if we were to be able to optimize the potential that is there, then this country will be able to quickly reach to the Kenya Vision 2030 as articulated in the Vision 2030. What then constitutes the blue economy? Well, the Kenya coastal ecosystem is very rich in resources, both in terms of landscapes and seascapes. Now, the blue economy resources can be largely categorized into two: those that are living, which include the fisheries, the aquaculture, the seaweeds, the mud flats, and the artemia. On the other hand, we also have those which are non-living but very rich in terms of their presence in the coastal areas and have a very high value in terms of attracting revenue to our tourism sector. Now, these include the coral reefs, the very rich beaches that we all enjoy. We have also mentioned that the living, we also have mangrove ecosystems. Now, how then can we be able to leverage on the existence of the current policy framework so that we can be able to fully exploit this blue economy? At the moment, the productive sectors within the blue economy, which have been utilized to some extent, include but not limited to the tourism. We are also talking about the hospitality in terms of the food sector, a little bit of the marine logistical framework in terms of transport, but not to a very large extent. There's still room for improvement there. But the areas which we still need to exploit fully is the establishment of fish ports, for instance. We also need to start thinking of pharmaceuticals through marine biotechnology. We have to start thinking of homegrown making of fish equipments. Those are areas which we have not fully exploited. Now, what is stopping us from reaching that potential? It being a very new sector, the country is still grappling in darkness in terms of policy frameworks. Yes, we know we have had a lot of policy and legislative materials, but those have been largely very heavy on aquaculture, a bit of beach management. But for us to be able to fully exploit, we need to expand the horizons and be able to ensure that we can fully see a blue economy that is thriving in terms of marine transport, having a fleet of a ship or even a hotel that is run in a ship, cruising from Kwale all the way to Lamu, and even going across the rivers that we have, just like the same way we enjoy the shipping cruise when we go to Egypt to the Suez Canal. That's one area. The other area is to see the development of ports, which the government is really doing its very best. We now have Shimoni Port that is coming up. I am aware that there are efforts to have support somewhere in Kilifi. But the most important thing is also to harness the huge potential that exists in the high seas, where we can take advantage of the great winds and we can be able to establish what we call renewable energy options through the wind systems in the oceans. That aside, for us to be able to also exploit fully the fishery sector, especially the marine environment, we need to ensure we have establishments that will train our seamen so that they can be able to go deep into the seas. Our Tanzanian brothers here have an edge over us because they even have colleges to train their fisherfolk, especially those who go fishing. So we need to ensure that our institutions, our policymakers support our fisherfolk in terms of equipments and capacity building, so that we do not just have them going fishing just a few nautical miles into the sea, but they should also be able to go into the deeper ends of the oceans. We have seaweeds as a very good resource that is in our marine ecosystem, and this can be utilized in the pharmaceutical industries. So these are some of the things that we are seeing as having a very huge potential, especially when we start talking about huge investments in terms of exploiting even much more into the extractive industries within the blue ecosystem or the blue economy space. The national government, realizing the potential of the blue economy subsector, in partnership with resource partners, came up with the idea of the Go Blue initiative. And the Jumuiya Counties apparently is part of this Go Blue initiative. Now the idea here is to get into the space where there were gaps in terms of taking the blue economy space into its optimal levels. For that reason, therefore, there are about 3 areas where there is the national initiative alongside the Jumuiya Counties appointees in terms of building the capacities of the fisherfolk. Number 1 is to ensure that they have modern fishing boats, and I think we have been able to see that across the counties that some fishermen have been supported with some form of modern fishing boats. We believe that these boats will be able to assist them to go into the high seas. Other than the modern fishing boats, which also come with their equipments, there has been efforts for some of the counties to build what we call cold storage structure facilities for the fisherfolk, and also they have established fish landing sites for every beach management unit that exists in the coast. I am aware that we have about 16 of these beach management units, and therefore each landing site is supposed to have a cold storage facility. But the most important thing other than that is also to be able to train the fisherfolk in terms of the fish hunting skills, so that they can be able to get the maximum out of the oceans. The last one, which is very critical, is to create elaborate market linkages between the fisherfolk. There's nothing that can thrive without proper policy environment. The counties and the national, guided by the national government, is in the processes of reviewing policy and legislative frameworks that can be able to be operationalized and make the fishing industry much more thriving, and the blue economy subsector generally. One area that is also very critical is partnering with investors in the blue economy subsector, so that they can have people coming in to establish private investment in the marine transport and logistics arena. They can also have people further investing in the tourism industry and areas that have not been exploited in terms of the blue economy, gaming or board games that can be able to attract what we call holiday makers when they come during their holiday time. A quick analysis of the blue economy subsector identified a weakness in terms of the fisher folk dynamics. Most of the fishermen are not working as a team. For that reason, therefore, the county governments have had an elaborate program to train all the BNU members in terms of leadership, group management, financial literacy, but more importantly is to conglomerate them into what we call cooperative societies for the purposes of them having one strong voice, advantages of volumes in terms of products, and an easy way of doing market penetration. Alongside that, one of the areas that was identified as a weak area was the area of marketing. And marketing now is to again train those members so that we can be able to think of adding value to the products that we have. The government recently launched a very big program funded by Global Affairs Canada called the Regenerative Seascapes Project or RESEA project. Now, one of the interventions of this program is to handhold business enterprises within the blue economy space. So what will happen is that they will identify social entrepreneurs, get to know their needs, identify what services they require, so they will be helped either in product development, or they will be helped in value addition, or they will be helped in market penetration, depending on which areas they are in. But in the long run is to make sure that through the use of digitalization now, they can be able even to share their products to other places, not just within the country. Small entrepreneurs are going to be handheld in terms of incubating them, either by way of getting them some funding or through training, so that their business ideas can be upscaled and outscaled for commercialization. For this sleeping giant to be able to be awake, so that we can be able to reap the full benefits of the blue economy space, the leadership of the counties, more so the governors, need to enhance their sensitization and awareness programs about the blue economy sector to all the players that are coming into their counties. That's number one. And number two is to think of putting their monies together so that they can have a flagship project that is going to contribute to further opening up more opportunities for people. Remember, the blue economy subsector has a potential of creating 5,000 jobs every year, but there must be establishments. So if I talk of a flagship project, I mean something like if the county leadership can come together, they can be able to say, we want to have one big fish port in Mombasa, so that all these counties can come in and say, here is where we're going to have our fish port, or let's have our fish port in Lamu, but the marketing is going to be done in Mombasa, or value addition is going to be done in Mombasa. So that is number one. Number two is to think together in terms of what policy or legislative frameworks do they put in place so that we do not have, number one, conflicts amongst themselves as counties, but number two, conflicts even amongst departments that are serving the blue economy space. Many times than not, you often have problems between the lands department, the agriculture department, and the fisheries department in terms of who owns which space. So such things must be harmonized so that we have a favorable investment environment for the investors. It goes without saying that the coastal ecosystem is the largest contributor of the blue economy space in the country. And we are talking about all the existing space from Kwale all the way to Lamu, but not forgetting the other areas. We have various lakes, we have various rivers, and not forgetting the aquaculture subsector. However, if we were to zero in terms of the potential of the coastal blue economy subsector, then we'll be talking of something close to 100 billion from just the coastal blue economy space, which means if we were to multiply that by 3 times, we should be able to optimally utilize the blue economy space the way it is. Then we could be able to create more jobs, we could be able to improve more, livelihoods, and indeed we will be able to create more wealth amongst the coastal populace, not forgetting the space for the youth and the women. Indeed, with the efforts that we are seeing around put by Jumuiya, the counties of Pwani at the national level, and the counties themselves, the way they have partners and the way we have resource partners that are investing in this space, we are likely to have an increase in terms of the returns from the blue economy space. The fisher folk themselves are now much more informed, so they are able to now think about exploiting the marine ecosystems sustainably in terms of preservation and ensuring regeneration. And you know, when the ocean is healthy, then the people are going to be healthy and definitely wealthy. Nakushukuru Bwana, nakushukuru.